Greetings everyone. In this video discussion, we will talk about the introduction to programming languages. Computer is considered as a computational device which is used to process data. Data which is considered as input. Then a program or a sequence of instructions along with the data is used to process those data or the raw data into a desired output format. This program or computer programs are written in programming languages, which are considered as high-level languages. We just have to backtrack a little bit on where it all began, the history of programming language. On 1883, Ada Lovelace credited the first computer programming language. She wrote an algorithm for the analytical engine or the early mechanical computer. So this analytical engine is or was created by Charles Babbage, considered the father of computer. So dili yun basta-basta ang mga babae since the first programmer was a woman. Lovelace noted that Mr. Babbage believes he can, by his engine, form the product of two numbers, each containing 20 figures in 3 minutes. Lovelace was considered the world's first computer programmer, showed a keen interest in mathematical studies taught by her mother Annabella. Her notes recognized as the first algorithm intended to be processed by a machine, according to her guardian on December 20 with I don't know I cannot backtrack or trace back the year. We can see in this picture the first computer algorithm, so which is obviously created by Lovelace. It was taken from her notes, which considered as a mathematical treasure. And by the way, the full name of Ada Lovelace is Augusta Ada King, Countess of Lovelace. Here we have several comparisons of selected programming languages. By the year 1957 to 1959, the Fortran or the Formula Translation, Lisp or Lisp Processor, and COBOL or the Common Business Oriented Language considered the oldest languages that are still used today. So high-level languages created for scientific, mathematical, and business computing. So the primary uses for these programming languages is supercomputing, applications, AI development, business software used by NASA, credit cards, ATMs. So fun fact, action movie The Terminator used sample of COBOL source code which is for the text shown in the Terminator's vision display. By the year 1970, Pascal, programming language after the French mathematician and physicist Blaise Pascal, created by Nicholas Worth, it is a high level for teaching structured programming and data structuring. Commercial versions widely used throughout the 80s. So primary uses for teaching programming, Object Pascal, a derivative, is commonly used for Windows application development, used by Apple Lisa in the year 1983, and the Skype software. Next, we have here the 1972. We have here the C programming language based on an earlier language called B. So it is created by Dennis Ritchie. So it is a general purpose low level created for Unix systems, second most popular language behind Java. Many leading languages are derivatives from these programming languages including C#, Java, JavaScript, Perl, PHP, and Python. Primary uses for this language is cross-platform programming, system programming, Unix programming, and computer game development. So used by Unix, rewritten in C in 1973, early world early World Wide Web servers and clients. On the year 1983, C++, formerly C with classes, is the increment operator in C. Oh, sorry, the plus plus sign is the considered as the increment operator in C. So it is called C with classes. So that is why it is named in C++. So it is an intermediate level object oriented, an extension of C with enhancements such as classes, virtual functions, and templates. Its creator is Bjarne Stroustrup. Primary uses is for commercial application development, embedded software, server client applications, and video games, used by Adobe, Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, Microsoft Internet Explorer, and many more. Another we have here in the year 1983, we have the Objective-C, or the object-oriented extension of C. It is a general-purpose, high-level expanded on C, adding message passing functionality based on Smalltalk language. Created by Brad Cox and Tom Love. So primary uses is on Apple programming, so used by Apple OS X and iOS operating systems. On the year 1987, Perl, since Perl siyang a word without the letter alphabet A, since the Perl nga name was already taken. So it is a general purpose high level language created for report processing on Unix systems. Today it's known for high power and versatility. Created by Larry Wall, primary uses in CGI, database application, system administration, network programming, and graphics programming. So used by IMDb, Amazon, Priceline, and Ticketmaster. Next, we have here the Python. So from British comedy troupe Monty Python. So it is not related directly to the name of a snake. So it is related to the British comedy troupe Monty Python. It is on 1991. It is a general-purpose, high-level programming language created to support a variety of programming styles and be fun to use. Tutorials, sample code, and instructions often contain Monty Python references. So it is created by Guido van Rossum. Primary uses is for web application, software development, and information security, used by Google, Yahoo, and Spotify. In the year 1993, Ruby, the birthstone of one of the creator's collaborators. So it is created by Yukihiro Matsumoto. General purpose, high-level programming language, a teaching language influenced by Perl, Ada, Lisp, Smalltalk, and etc. Designed for productive and enjoyable programming. So primary uses for web application development and Ruby on Rails, used by Twitter, Hulu, and Groupon. Another we have here in the year 1995, Java, for the amount of coffee consumed while developing the language. So the Java name is being related to the coffee name. It is created by James Gosling. So it is a general-purpose high-level programming language made for an interactive TV project, cross-platform functionality, currently the world's most popular programming language. Its primary usage is for network programming, web application development, software development, graphical user interface development, used by Android OS application. On the same year, PHP, formerly known as Personal Homepage, now it stands for Hypertext Preprocessor. It is an open-source general-purpose programming language for building dynamic web pages, most widely used open-source software by enterprises. Its creator is Rasmus Lerdorf. Primary uses is for building, maintaining dynamic web pages, server-side development, used by Facebook, Wikipedia, Dig, WordPress, and Joomla. On the year 1995, JavaScript has been created. Final choice after Mocha and LiverScript. So it is created by Brendan Ike. Ike. High level programming language created to extend web page functionality used by dynamic web pages for form submission, validation, interactivity, animations, user activity tracking, and etc. Uses Primary uses: dynamic web development, PDF documents, web browsers, and desktop widgets used by Gmail, Adobe Photoshop, Mozilla, Firefox. We all know that computer can only understand one specific language. This is called the machine language, which is the ones and consists of ones and zeros. So we have here the hierarchy: the high level programming language, then assembly or the low level programming language, then we have here the machine language. So in order for this, what we call, for the machine language, or for the hardware, or for your computer to understand high level programming language, since high level, we are now using this high level programming languages because it is, all of them are portable, but it requires interpretation or compiling in order for the high level language to convert it into machine language that the computer or the hardware can understand. So it needed the high level programming language like Java and other programming languages needed a compiler or an interpreter for the machine, or for the hardware, computer hardware, or for the computer itself can understand each instruction given. So it is being converted to high level to machine code, then those machine codes will be given as an instruction to the hardware. And this is what we call assembly language, or the assembly, as considered as the low level programming language. It uses this what we call utility program, or the assembler, for the assembly code to be converted into machine executable code, which is the machine language. So this assembly language is what we call kanang, it is almost similar to machine language, which consists of one and zeros, but it also has a kanang tawag, contains characters also, not just one and zero. Okay, unlike the machine code, which is only consists of ones and zero. So we have here the what we call the comparison of interpreter and compiler. So in an interpreter, it translates program one statement at a time, but a compiler scans the entire program and translates it as a whole into machine code. Then the interpreter, it takes less amount of time to analyze the source code, but the overall execution time is slower because it translates program one statement at a time, the whole program, so one at a time. So that is why its execution time is much lower. Then the compiler, it takes large amount of time to analyze the source code, but the overall execution is comparatively faster because in general it scans the whole entire program then translate it into machine code. So in interpreter, no intermediate object code is generated, hence are memory efficient. Then in for compiler, generates intermediate object code which further requires linking, hence requires more memory. And the interpreter continues translating the program until the first error is met, in which case it stops, hence debugging is easy. So in compiler, it generates the error message only after scanning the whole program. Hence debugging is comparatively hard because you don't know where to check or where to find the error because it scanned the entire program, unlike the interpreter. So it stopped the translating when it once it met e or once it encountered an error. Programming languages like Python, Ruby use interpreters, but programming languages like C, C++ uses compilers. Okay. Here we have some programming languages. So I know you are all familiar with some of these. This is what we call C, C Sharp, Python, C++, and many more. So gamay lang ni sa mga ni-exist sa nga mga programming languages. Here we have the top 10 programming languages according to Geeks for Geeks on the year 2019. So we have here the JavaScript or the GS. So according to Stack Overflow 2018 developer survey, so JavaScript is the most popular for developers successively for 6 years, compatible to major browsers, loveliest programming languages among the loveliest programming language among beginners, front end and for server side is we are going to use Node.js. Next is we have Python. Like Java, Python syntax is clear. For backend, popular in areas like scientific computing and machine learning and engineering. We have here Java. Most frequent sentence comes up would be write once, run everywhere. So the ruling programming language for the last 20 years. The C or the C++, we are focusing on the term old is gold. C has proved this code in different ways, made a strong contribution to the world programming since Linux OS is C-based and C++ is the hybrid version of C. It is used for virtual reality, gaming, computer graphics. PHP, created for the purpose of maintaining personal homepage. So a general purpose programming language, scripting language, which runs on a server and it is used to create web pages written in HTML. Free, cheap, easy to set up, and simple to use for new programmers. We have here also Swift, as smooth as its name. Swift is a general purpose open source compiled programming language developed by Apple Incorporated, deeply influenced by Python and Ruby, and was designed to be friendly or beginner friendly and fun to use, faster and more secure and easier to read and debug than its predecessor Objective C. We have here also C Sharp, a powerful object-oriented programming language developed by Microsoft in the year 2000. Windows 8 and 10 applications requires a .NET framework to function, so developed as a rival to Java since Sun did not want the interference of Microsoft to make changes in Java. Prove itself in VR or virtual reality, 2D and 3D gaming. Next, we have the Ruby, an open source dynamic programming language focused on simplicity and productivity. Developed in mid 1990s in Japan. A full stack web framework resembles with the English language to a great extent. Designed with theme of simplifying the programming environment and making more fun. We have here also an Objective-C, an object-oriented programming language. It is used by Apple for the OS X and iOS operating systems and their application programming interfaces, or what we call the APIs. Developed in 1980s and came in usage by some of the earliest systems, Hybrid C, because of the features it adds to C programming language. We have here also the SQL, or the Structured Query Language, is a programming language to operate databases. SQL keeps data precise and secure, and it's also helps in maintaining the integrity of databases, irrespective of its sizes. So you can now choose your destiny. So if you're going to venture on front-end web development, you can use JavaScript. In back-end, you can use JavaScript, which is particularly on Node.js. You have your Python, Java, PHP, Ruby, and C Sharp. In desktop application, you can use Java, C++, and Python. Mobile development, you can use Swift, Java, C Sharp, and ang new karon is katong Flutter. Napoy katong Kotlin. Flutter, I think. Yes. Okay, next is for game development, you can use C++ and C Sharp. And just in case some of you will venture in creating a programming language, here are some tips to remember. A programming language must be simple, easy to learn and use, have good readability, and human recognizable. Abstraction is a must characteristic of a programming language in which a ability to define the complex structure and then its degree of usability comes. A portable programming language is always preferred. Programming languages efficiency must be so high so that it can be easily converted into a machine code and executed consumes little space and memory. A programming language should be well structured and documented so that it is suitable for application development. Necessary tools for development, debugging, testing, maintenance of a program must be provided by a programming language. A programming language should provide single environment known as integrated development environment. So for example, like Java, you can use NetBeans. Next is a programming language must be consistent in terms of syntax and semantics, the most important. Okay. And that's it for this video discussion. Have a nice day, everyone.